Hi, I'm Lucy Appert, and we're here to talk with faculty members in the Atlas Network pilot at NYU. And I am talking with
Joy Simon. I'm the instructor for the Consumer and Interactive Education course.
And I'm Ed Meyer, second year informatics student with in the interactive course.
So, Joy and Ed are going to talk to us about the use of Sakai OAE, the Atlas Network, to achieve some specific pedagogical goals for the type of course that she's offering. So first, Joy, can you tell us a little bit about the type of course and the type of students you have?
Sure. The course is a master's course in the nursing informatics program. So all the nursing informatics majors have to take the course, and it's an elective for nursing education and nursing administration majors. Sorry about that. And so all the students in the course are actually working nurses who are returning to school for their master's in one of those areas. And the focus of the course really has a lot to do with health literacy and how patients and consumers of healthcare go about seeking health information. And in today's healthcare environment where there's so much information online and people are really seeking out a lot of information on their own, how we incorporate that into the healthcare settings, be it in a hospital, in a private office, and the role and responsibility of healthcare practitioners, and how that fits in, and what our legal responsibilities are, ethical responsibilities are, and how that all comes into play in the patient-provider interaction.
And Ed, in the informatics program, you also look at the ways that the environment interacts with the people who are involved in it and the influence of environments on participants. So you have another interest in this pilot as well.
Absolutely. So I'm working with Nadia with this Atlas project. And we, in the nursing program, wanted to integrate some of the features of the collaborative learning piece and bring that more to the student level to kind of keep the conversations that we're having in our class going outside of the classroom and make it worthwhile for the student to continue experiences learned from the fall and transform it into the spring and continue it on to their postmaster's life.
Great. So, Joy, one thing that you've used a lot is the discussion tool. And do you want to talk about kind of how you're using this differently in this environment?
Sure. So one of the big things that I try and get the students to do is to be able to look at healthcare messages and analyze them for who the message is intended for, who the target audience is, what the main message is, what the beginning and ending point of it is, and then if the message is actually a successful message, and then translate this for themselves, whether they're putting together a larger type of promotion or even in an individual conversation with a patient, how to successfully reach that patient in terms of, again, analyzing who that patient is, what their needs are, and how to get the message across. So they have an ongoing weekly assignment to find a healthcare promotion in the popular media. Most of them use YouTube videos. And take a look at who they believe the intended target audience is, what the main message is, and if they feel the message was successful. Sometimes they can pick anything they want. Sometimes we pick a topic, whether it's a particular, like in October we did breast cancer awareness, so they had to find messages about breast cancer. Sometimes we decide we want to target something we pick a particular target audience, like we did pediatrics one week, or sometimes we'll look for particularly great examples. Other times we'll look for examples that we think we're lacking. And then they have to do their analysis, and then they have to comment and discuss with each other. And it's been an interesting progression over the course of the semester. You know, it always starts out with a lot of, oh, I agree with you. And then as the semester progresses, it really turns into a much more dynamic discussion of much more detailed analysis as they build confidence in their ability to really break down the messages.
So what you're modeling for them in the online piece as well as in the classroom discussion is how they interact with others who may have a different background or may not agree with them, or in subjects they're not comfortable with, and working on this deeper skill that they're going to be using professionally as professional health communicators.
Absolutely. We do a lot of talking about cultural implications and the subtleties of understanding where a patient is in terms of age, in terms of religious background, cultural background, country of origin, language spoken, and how messages are put together, and how when you understand the person in front of you, the message can be interpreted incredibly differently, including who else other than just the patient needs to hear the message, because people aren't making healthcare decisions in a vacuum. And it always amazes me. I learn so much from the students, but what they come to realize with how much more is involved in healthcare teaching and healthcare messages other than just, okay, this is what you need to know.
So it sounds like you're using the OAE, the Atlas environment, to be able to take a multimedia piece, a YouTube clip or a PDF of a flyer or something like that, and put it in front of students, or have students put it in front of each other. So that's another piece of it, right? Is the students are putting stuff up for each other. And then to have the discussion happen right with that piece.
Yes. So I think a lot of what it is too, which I tell them, is sometimes you look at it and you have to look at it again. You have to watch it a couple of times and you have to see it. And obviously in a one-on-one interaction, things are happening in that moment, but they have an ongoing project throughout the semester too to build a healthcare promotion. And when you're looking at TV ads or radio ads or print ads, it's generally, yes, there's a first impression, but those things aren't put together in an instant. So I want them to spend some time with it and digest it and really delve into it a little deeper and learn about sort of the consequences that happen when you don't think something through and see what somebody's motivation was behind it. And we talk a lot about intended consequences and unintended consequences of things, and even having the opportunity to see other people's reactions to it and realize one of the things we talk about a lot too is not every message is going to work for everybody, and that's okay. So when it's on the discussion board like that, I can post something, and I post examples as well and give my feedback to it, and then see other people's responses. And even just from the group that we have in class, it's such a diverse group, age-wise, culture-wise, where people were born, where people grew up, where the types of places they've worked, types of patients they've worked with. So to see that somebody's reaction is so incredibly different than your own, I think that's the most enlightening part of it.
And the online discussion boards precede the class discussion, so are they kind of something that seed the discussion for the class, or do they happen after discussions, or they're ongoing?
It's ongoing. It's a weekly assignment that every student needs to post an example to the discussion board and then respond to at least 2 or 3 classmates during the week, though the tendency is that most people are responding to almost everybody's. And then there are times, then I'm constantly going back and responding to people's as well. So there's still times that we're referring back to an example that somebody posted 2 or 3 weeks prior. And it's constantly an ongoing.
So actually, this is kind of interesting because so one thing we've identified is that being able to get the discussion with the content and have those 2 pieces together are important. But another thing that you're talking about is kind of continuous access to content. So one thing that I said I'd like to talk to you all about is the OAE library, where everything that's been posted in the course is together in this kind of single archive. So it's not where a student has to think, oh, what folder was that in? Do I have to go back and find that? And then students can actually take material from that archive into their own personal archives, into their own personal libraries. So the stuff from their course they can use again and again. But you've also said as a professor that this is useful for you.
I do this assignment every semester with my students, and it amazes me. They find such fabulous examples. Like I said, both examples of things that really worked and examples of things that didn't work so well. So with previous systems I've used at the end of the semester, I'm always like a crazy person going back to the discussion board and making sure I get URLs, and if there were really good student postings that went along with it, copying and pasting and making sure I save those so I can share them with the class in other semesters. But this will be really nice because I'll be able to go back and access it as well and save that and post it again and potentially have students commenting on things from previous semesters as well and analyzing that, which I think is a really wonderful feature because it truly can be an ongoing dynamic discussion.
Yeah, and from a student's perspective, we learn from the professor, but we also learn from each other. And to know that students that were engaged in this course prior to or afterwards are still that connectivity piece, then that's really bringing the model of a class to a larger, like we say, global community. So I think the ideas can spread that much further and be enhanced, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the idea of cohort building that's so important in master's programs. It can be very hard because people are out of sequence in terms of their courses, or they're maybe in the same master's program for 5 years, and there's somebody who has some experience or an area you'd really like to connect with, but you've heard about them and you haven't seen them. So in this environment, you might be able to see them, send them a message, try to connect with them otherwise. So I can see how that would be really important for a master's program, especially. But also, I think what I'm hearing from you all is that the virtual space is really important in terms of creating this community space. It's not just about your class meetings, but it's about this content that you built together, the things that you're doing together, and that you'd like to keep, that you'd like to continue to use.
Definitely, and it's helped me over the course of the semester really get to know my students better too, and feel much more connected to them. And I think with what I teach, that's really important to me. You know, a lot of what we talk about is using plain language and getting to know who your patient is and how to connect with your patient to get the message across. And I kind of feel the same way in the classroom. Like for this content to work, we have to break down those barriers in the classroom. And we have to feel comfortable talking about topics that are difficult to talk about. We're analyzing messages and saying, well, this message may work for this culture, but may be offensive to this culture, or this joke, because there's a lot of discussion about humor in messages. And you have to be careful because this may work for this group of people, but actually really tick this group of people off. And how do you balance that? So I feel like it's really important for me to break down barriers in the classroom and for us to really feel comfortable talking to one another about topics that are difficult to talk about. And so allowing that discussion to build more than just once a week, because we're only together an hour and a half a week, but we're together a lot on the discussion board, and I do speak very freely on the discussion board. I speak freely in class. I tell everybody from the beginning, call me Joy, because I want to go by my first name, and I want to speak to them in plain language too, and really just be able to talk. And just spending that time, an hour and a half a week, getting to know each other won't do it the same way. But when a few times a week we're really just talking to each other about what's going on the discussion board, it really does form a different type of connection.
A relationship that might extend beyond the course. Yeah.
It's great to know that there's that openness that because some courses can come off as what you're doing in here only applies here, and then you take your own experience out of it. I can see how person A took it, person B took it, and then relate it to my own experience and integrate some of their experiences to make my own practice more sound. So it really does transform from academic to professional life.
Well, that's certainly nice to hear.
Is there anything y'all would like to add?
I have found using Atlas, I find the setup of it really easy to navigate, which is nice. I think it flows nicely. I think it's easy to use. I think it makes things really easy to find when you're going back to them as well, which hasn't always been my experience with some of the other tools that we've used. So it's been really nice that way as well.
That's great to hear. That's great.
And it's been fun to have a new learning tool to learn and expound upon, and to see how our experience may be different than other schools' experiences, but kind of see how we can tweak our own habits and make them better too.
Yeah, I'll say teaching in the liberal arts program, getting to come and talk to people who are teaching in very different types of programs and find that we're all doing the same thing as teachers and as students is really affirming. And we have this same set of needs is really nice too. So I really appreciate you all talking to us today, and we'll look forward to hearing more about what's developing in the nursing program's pilot of Atlas.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.